Please describe why you are running for a school board member and what are your qualifications for being a school board trustee?
Well, I have been a teacher and counselor for over 21 years at West Contra Costa, and over this length of time, I have become well acquainted with the district and the needs that our students have, and the strengths, but also the weaknesses that we have. And I think that I have the experience and the vision to bring about, to start bringing about some changes, to start changing the orientation of our district. I think that I can make a positive contribution. I think that we need, like I've said many times before, we need caring teachers, smaller class sizes, but we also need a thorough implementation of what the district's plans are. One of the basic plans of the district is implementation of what is called the full service community school. But that is a template, it's a plan, but it lacks specificity, and I think I can bring that about. I also, during my 20 or so years in the district, I was for a length of about 8 years in the executive committee of the UTR, our teachers union. And so I think I know, and as a counselor, I also had a lot of dealings with the administration, so I think I am familiar with how our district works and what it needs, and like I said, what are its strengths and its shortcomings.
This actually serves as a pretty good follow-up to what you just said. So in your questionnaire, you said that one of your top priorities is the immediate implementation of the full-service community school based on teacher autonomy and direct community involvement.
That's right.
So how would you leverage your knowledge and experience in your specific role as a board member to drive implementation of community schools? And what is the school board's role in that versus the superintendent's role?
Well, there's several issues there. One is the full service community school centered around teacher autonomy and direct community involvement. And I think that we have in our contract, teachers have several open windows to begin having a say-so on academic matters. There is a clause on consultation. We just had in a contract, our department heads got a stipend, so we have elected department heads. And we have the tools necessary, we just need to use them. One of the problems that we have in the district, as it relates to, say, one of the problems that we have is the differential in achievement between groups. It is the fact that we have for a long time trying to go with the formula one size fits all. And I think our teachers need to have the autonomy to design the instruction to meet the needs of the children in front of them. And the teachers and the school, there's the differentials are between, the scoring in standardized tests between Richmond, say just to mention two schools, Richmond High School and Kennedy High School, and other high schools like Hercules. There is a differential of, in proficiency that is quite large. And so we need to have different programs. I mean, the students have different needs, different academic needs. And so we need to address those.
Okay, I have the next question. So you say that evaluating the district fiscal impact of charter schools in our district is another priority. Why have you chosen to focus on this for your campaign? What specifically would you ask for as a board member, and what do you think will change?
Well, I think that there is there is need for more for accountability. In fact, several pieces of legislation have come up. They have been they have made an untimely death, demanding accountability from the charters. I have had long conversations with the lady in charge of the charter schools in our district, Linda Delgado, and she shares my opinion. And we need to. Recently, a study was made. I believe it was called Breaking Point with Oakland, and they came to the conclusion that Oakland is subsidizing the charter school industry to the tune of $55 million. And you just have to take into account that we lose, just on average daily attendance, we have approximately 6,000 students in charter schools, and at $10,000 per student, that's a large amount of money. Now, of course, the district also saves, in quotation, saves some money, but not having to educate the 6,000 children. But the net effect is a loss for our district. And in fact, there is another piece of legislation, I forget the name, I put it in my answer, 1362, I believe, that purports to do just that. You know, it will include the issue of the financial impact of charters on the district as one of the reasons why a petition could be denied for a charter school. So it is an important issue. I think that we are, we need to protect our budget, of public schools. After all, our monies are tax generated, and the district has to answer and is fully accountable to the community for the monies. Yes.
Hey there, Carlos. This is Derek. I've got your next question. Slightly a two-parter. You have decades of professional experience within our district as a high school teacher and a counselor. How do you intend to leverage that experience and build strong relationships with the district educators and learn more about the day-to-day experiences of educators in our district today? And then second part is, how would this inform your work of overseeing a district with nearly 30,000 students?
Well, the first question, if elected, I intend to be to have a permanent presence in the schools. I think that you learn a lot by being there and learning firsthand. As a teacher, I felt oftentimes that the administration was deaf to our needs and to the issues that were raised at the site level. So I don't think that the current board members have an office or a desk on Bissell Street, but I think that I would have. I will bring my own desk if necessary, but I will be there. I am retired and happily retired, and I will do that. As a matter of fact, the second part of your question.
The second part is, how will this inform your work of overseeing a district so large of nearly 30,000 students?
Well, we have a very effective institution in our district. In all districts have it. It's school site councils. We have the school site council, and we have the local bilingual advisory committee, and I would rely on those institutions that we already have to leverage my.
Effective board leadership requires listening to the community, reaching out for counsel on important issues, and taking bold actions and positions in the face of opposition. Can you share examples of those leadership skills in your own life and work?
Well, while I was a teacher, I made it a point to make sure that the contract was followed by the principal particularly on issues that affected directly the conditions of our daily work, such as changing schedule, for instance. I cannot forget that there used to be a time when the principal of every school was called the principal because he was the principal teacher. See, and principals have a tendency to think of themselves as junior executives, you know, and they are not. So I on a couple of occasions I made sure that if there were any changes on our schedule, on our time of work, that the contract be followed, and the contract demands for approval of such changes by the teachers. And so I made sure that was done. Many years ago, on another occasion, we used to have a course called Introduction to the Social Sciences for the 9th graders, which was a very good course because in the school where I was, at Richmond High School, there were students with many deficiencies. And so I tried to make sure that those deficiencies were addressed in the course proposed, but unfortunately the whole process fell into the hands of bureaucrats, and we came up with a do-nothing course. That's a necessary course for the 9th graders that they take. I don't know what they call it now. But I took that upon myself and I went and did it.
I have the next question. In your questionnaire responses, you stated a number of concerns, the racial and socioeconomic inequity in student achievement, and made a direct connection between the historical low achievement and the need for community schools. How do you define equity, and what action would you take as a trustee to advance educational equity and excellence for all West Contra Costa Unified School District students?
Well, equity doesn't mean equality, okay? Equity doesn't mean giving everybody the same thing. See? Equity means giving each student, each group of students what they need. And with regards to the differential in achievement, well, there are basically two positions. You know, one position blames the schools. You know, the schools have to blame. We need stricter grading. We need better prepared teachers. And there is another position that puts the radical cause of the achievement gap on the socioeconomic circumstances. And I think that the evidence backs that. Of course, we need excellent schools. We need good teachers. But the root cause, I believe, is that the differential in access to wealth and power and that different groups have, and the fact that low-income children simply don't have the same amount or the quality of enrichment activities that are available to children that enjoy a higher income household. And so the way to remedy that, the way to bridge that gap, is to provide our low-income children and our low-achieving children with these enrichment opportunities and with the needed, I don't want to use the word remedial, but I would use it, you know, the needed remedial academic work that they need. Simply at the high school level, we have, each student has 55 credits of electives, see? And so there's plenty of time, there's plenty of opportunity for children to catch up. Unfortunately, the way, what has happened to our high school programs hinders an implementation of such policies.
Okay. Over the past 5 years, education funding for California school district has increased dramatically.
Education in the people?
Funding.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Especially in districts serving underserved communities. Yet there is widespread talk about the state of likely district bankruptcy. What factors, in your opinion, generate these fears? Do you believe West Contra Costa is it at risk of bankruptcy?
Well,
If so, what
mhm.
can we do to avoid it? If you don't believe it, please share why.
I believe that we are on a path that will lead us to bankruptcy. I believe we are. The other part of your question, as far as the money, the increase in funding that we've had in the district, there has been an increase in funding, but there has been, I would say, the same lack of oversight on how it is being spent. Like I said earlier, the way to remedy, to bridge the achievement gap is to provide our children that need it with the enrichment and the health and the mental services, mental health and emotional health services that they need. And I see very little of that at the higher levels. I think that there is a need for our students to have an option. I think that this college-going culture is not working. For one, my position is the following: I see no contradiction between career technical education and a college-going culture. I think that we can give our students both. They can go all the way to high school and be able to enroll in a university, that's what they desire, and also being able to enter a career. I've always said, and I said it jokingly, but it's the seriousness behind it, I never trust an engineer that didn't get his hands dirty in high school. You know, don't trust an architect that didn't took a hammer and a nail in a wood shop while he was in high school.
In terms of, you answered that you believe we are heading for what could be possibly heading for.
Yes.
And what do you think we can do to prevent that from happening? And that was the second part.
Okay, I think we need on the one hand, stricter oversight on how the money is being spent. Just last year, like I don't know if I mentioned it here, but $40 million were spent on consultant fees. The next year, the figure was in the high 20s. And I had an opportunity to look at the budget, and it was really, a very difficult task for me to make heads or tail of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciated it. One of the things I appreciate the most is your idea of teacher autonomy, and I just kind of want to delve into that a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, is the autonomy, is it from principals, is it from the district, or is it from the curriculum? I got to follow up.
Okay.
So I'm just, autonomy from who? And then how would you change it to give them more autonomy? And then I'm also curious, just how would that relate to professional development at a team level between the teachers? I can always repeat some of that if you need.
Okay. Well, I'll start trying to answer the first part. We are teachers. We are education workers, okay? And the tools of our trade are the educational objectives, the determination of the course content, the selection of textbooks. And those things have been taken away from us. And with the new fangled teaching techniques that place too much emphasis on computer time, our profession, I fear, is in danger of being de-skilled. In other countries, the process the teachers are no longer teachers, they are facilitators, really, because the teaching is done by the computer. You know, you just make sure that they are turned on and that they don't start fighting with each other. But your role as a teacher is that, and I don't approve of that. I think that we should make the proper use of technology. By no means I am against using technology, but when it takes over the creative and the human aspect of teaching, I think that is a misuse.
Running a long time, how do you feel about working in teacher groups? How does teacher autonomy work?
I think that is one of the best propositions there is, for teachers to work together, to share experiences. And if sometimes, to share students, that happens spontaneously in some schools. You have two teachers, three teachers who are very good friends with each other, and hey, so-and-so is giving me trouble, so hey, I'm gonna send him over to your class, so he goes to the other class, and there are faculty meetings, and teachers meet and exchange notes and compare.
Thank you.
Mr. Taboada, you know that the district is investing right now $2.4 million in SRO. What do you think about it?
In what?
SRO.
SROs, yeah.
What do you think about it?
You know, well, there is a place for SROs within a school-wide plan for security and support. I just think that there is no room in our schools for armed. There's no room in our schools for guns, whether they are with SROs or, of course, with the hands of students. But I think that that's where I would draw the line. I personally, I don't like to see armed policemen, because that's what they are, armed policemen in our campus. And I have seen many times, too many times, while I was a counselor, we shared the campus with a middle school and an elementary school, and I saw many times seventh graders being taken out in handcuffs. No, I don't think there's a need for that. And I don't think that there is a need for armed policemen in our schools. If there is a need if anybody sees a need for armed policemen in our schools, well, then we need to look at that school closely and see why there is what is the justification for that. Yes.
Are you done?
Finish.
Are you satisfied with that? Well, I mean, have I answered your question? But no, to repeat, there is a need for SROs, for official personnel, but within part of a plan that would involve things like restorative justice that would have other factors in the equation, not simply we have a problematic school, well, let's send more SROs to that school because that's what those kids need, and that's not,
Thank you.
As your experience as a teacher and a counselor, can you give me one opportunity that you can see where we can bridge that gap as relates to the disproportionate numbers in math and English? Any specific strategies that you can suggest?
Okay, well, I can give you an example of one attempt that was made on my part. For a while, there was this, I can only call it idiotic policy on the part of the district to give ninth graders credit in Algebra 1 for the Algebra 1 that they took in the 8th grade. So they would come into the 9th grade, straight into geometry, and then jump into Algebra 2. I did a study, I went through, hundreds of transcripts, and I found out that they were flunking atrociously. And so I advocated for that to be remedied. And I didn't get to the district, but we had at that time a sustained silent reading that they call it, 20 minutes of sit down, shut up, and read for every student. And so in collaboration with the math teachers, we got together all the kids that were flunking math, and instead of sustained silent reading, they had sustained math catch up, sustained math homework. There was a small attempt on a school-wide level. We have an entrance exam for English learners to see what level of English you're gonna be at. And I don't see why we shouldn't have that for math. To me, that's elementary. I mean, you have a school with only 2% proficient in math compared to another school where you have 15% proficient in math. Well, obviously something must be done in this school where only 2% are proficient in math. And one way is to find out who needs what. And I should add that in some schools, teachers are doing that spontaneously. We have a very, very talented group of teachers. And if given the opportunity, and if not harassed by the principal that says, oh, you can't do that, teachers have taken the initiatives to give the pre-algebra lessons, the catch-up that students need. But, I mean, without support from the top. Yes, thank you.
I'm interested, so you have a long history as, I would say, like an agitator in the district, right? On behalf of the union, and I'm a union member, so, you know, I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I'm interested in how you envision your role on the board being, considering that you've had this long history sort of fighting on behalf of teachers, often at odds against the district. So knowing what our board looks like right now, which is not always the most, you know, non-negative place, right? There are often many disagreements on the board. How do you see yourself as a board member working on behalf of everybody, the district, principals, and teachers?
Well, I always saw myself as an advocate for our students and our teachers, and not as an agitator. So I would work closely with the schools. I would work closely, like I mentioned before, with the school side councils. I would work toward developing a special relationship with principals and with department heads. One question, I mean, behind everything that I have been saying is a fundamental question of who owns the curriculum. I mean, is the curriculum owned by the philanthropic organization that is financing such and such program, or is it owned by the teachers, the community, and in the last instance, by the students? See? And I think that that teachers will be receptive to that approach. I think that we need also at the district level, we need a change in the way we communicate decisions. You know, we are not a corporation in the education business. Okay, we are not a business. Okay? And I think that from the superintendent level, we should make a change. You know, we should consult those that will be affected by the decisions that we plan to take, not simply announce them. I or we, the board, have decided to do this. You know, it should be a more collaborative endeavor.
Yes, this is kind of falling back to your teacher autonomy. And in light of Common Core and the whole notion of having all of the schools on the same page across the country, and kids can just go from one place to the next and be, you know, exposed to the same thing. How do you think that impacts the education, particularly as you were saying, no one side fits all in terms of, you know, teaching kids?
Well, I harbor serious doubts about the effectiveness of the Common Core, okay, to begin with. The way it's made so that a large number of students simply don't make it. I don't like the uniformity in learning that is based on. I mean, I have seen documentaries and I have seen films and I have spoken to people from, say, Finland, and I am familiar with the educational systems in other countries, and nobody does that. Some of the most successful countries really don't even have homeworks, and they don't demand that a child by the first grade be able to write a thesis sentence and such things. I think that is killing the creativity of our children. it may result in a quiet classroom, but I shudder to think of a classroom full of first graders that is quiet, silent, and sitting down. I think that our children should have the opportunity to be children and learn. I believe firmly in the principle of blending work, play, and school. Work, play, and school. Maybe from the first to the third grade, more play, more school and a little bit of work. I believe that if the children are going to have a garden, well, don't just have a garden, but integrate that garden into your biology. Integrate that garden into lessons about ecology, that sort of thing. Like I said, I do have serious doubts about the Common Core. Districts are blackmailed into accepting it, really. I mean, either you take the Common Core or you do without millions of dollars. That's basically the way it is.
Thank you. Karen, and then Tanisha.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about, you said to bridge the achievement gap, provide more enrichment opportunities. What did you mean by enrichment opportunities? Like what kind?
Enrichment opportunities, we have a few in our school, in our district. See, we just need more and make them more accessible to all children. How about summer school, summer programs? These are not necessarily academic activities, Most of our low-income children, who are the ones that are not performing that well, come from families that work. There's really not a lot of people at the home, willing to spend the time with the child to take him here, take him there. I remember when I first came to teach I taught in Richmond High School. I discovered that the overwhelming majority of my students have never been to the beach. They have never been to the beach. So together with a few other teachers, we organized, I think it was a three-bus trip to Point Reyes. And we had a wonderful time. It was during school time, but hey, we should be having that all summer for all children. Go to the beach, have some fun, go here, go there. Creative, playful activities. That's what I mean by those enrichment activities.
Do you think that there's any programs that are doing that right now that are?
Yes, I just spoke to a teacher a couple days ago that had come from a summer program. Like I said, we do have. See, our district has the template for what to do. See, we just don't have I believe we don't have the district-wide vision to make it happen for everybody and for everybody that needs it, particularly.
Tanisha.
You said in a comment that we focus solely on a college-going culture. And that you would like to look at a career attainment culture alongside a college-going culture. Considering this college-going culture has failed a lot of our students, what would this career attainment culture alongside a college-going culture look like?
Okay, rather than go off on a tangent onto what I imagine or what I would like it to be, I'll just give you an example of what I think we were doing right 20 years ago when I started teaching. Okay, 20 years ago when I started teaching in Richmond High School, we had a printing press that was right in the large room where we had all the computers, and our student body made the yearbook from beginning to end. From beginning to end. Okay? They made the yearbook. They had the computers there and they had the printing press. And it was their yearbook. We also had an auto mechanics shop. And we also had a wood shop. And we also had, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, calculus. We also had history, economics, government, and the rest. But like I said earlier, high school students have 55 credits in electives. And the fact that we have had a failing college, and let me tell you that little by little, year by year, each one of these wonderful experiments were eliminated, one by one. And without going into any names, those responsible for eliminating such programs kept going, climbing higher and higher in the bureaucratic ladder. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. I mean, we have a situation where only 42% of the graduates are ready to enter either of the two university systems. And in fact, it is in the what they call it, the plan, you know, the plan, the 2022 roadmap to raise that 42% to 80%. But there is no mention of how. I mean, wishful thinking is not going to accomplish it. And as it is now, going to college is not the option or the choice for a great many of our students. So I think that we could give them both if we just tried.
We have time for one more question. Has anybody not asked a question that would like to ask a question? David's yours.
I have two questions, but you can reserve the time it has. Thinking about the LCAP, we have the funding formula.
Yeah.
Speaking about equity, you know, the formula spend the money in the same level to all the schools, but all the children doesn't have the same needs. How can we fix that?
Well, I understood that there was within that local control funding formula, there was part of the formula was designed to give low-income children and English learners an additional amount of money, an additional amount of income. And whether it has happened or not, that I don't know. But I remember having that discussion at the Executive Board of the Union many times, a couple of times, when the LCAP was first explained to us. In fact, that was the promise made by Governor Brown, right? I mean, that's what was that's what was supposed to be different from the previous way of allocating funds. That this time more funds would be headed toward the schools and districts that needed them most. And I believe that somewhere between the good intention and the application, the carrying out of these plans, something went all right. It has gone all right.
Okay, and about the curriculum, looking at the state academic curriculum, we don't have, they have a curriculum for every year for every classroom, but that is not happening in every school. And for experience, that's something that I have been experienced with my kids. I have 4, and I have been following the curriculum that the schools has and how are they progressing that, and but the state has a different curriculum for every year. So that's something that's happening now in many schools.
Well, that's because, like I said, children have different academic needs. And it also makes sense to insist that everybody be doing the same thing at the same time to begin with. Another reason is that any meaningful academic reform, you need to look at it over at least a 3-year period to gauge its effectiveness. I mean, you cannot implement an academic reform and wait, hey, let's see what the results at the end of the year, see if this is going to work. Well, that's not going to work. You know? An academic reform, if it's seriously implemented, you need at least 3 years to be able to gauge its results. And that's perhaps one flaw in our system that, I mean, other countries don't have that. I mean, why should we go from first to second to third to fourth grade? I mean, why can't we just have the first 3 grades together? You know, children learn at different times. Many children are not ready to do in the first grade what is demanded that they learn and that they do. Okay? And so one result is that all the school psychologists are overworked, you know. And I know that for experience. My wife is a school psychologist, and she's overwhelmed by parents that come, hey, my second grade and my first grade can't do this, you know, what's wrong with you? Well, there's nothing wrong with your child, ma'am. There's something wrong with the academic impositions on your child. But, I mean, like I say, you know, not very many people are willing to face the situation that way.
What is your idea about improving data-based data in the district? We don't
You know,
have that
I brought some data that I collected 2 years ago, and I think I mentioned it in some of my answers. And then I had another folder with data as is available, you know, today. And it's very difficult to find out what is happening, what is going on. So I think that at least at the school level, we should go back and just measuring, you know, just basic proficiency in different subjects. And you know, who's taking what advanced placement exams and in what areas. And because we cannot get that kind of data from the new changes that they made. So I think it will be up to each school, each district. I mean, you're generating data that you need. I mean, if you need to remedy the achievement gap, well, you go to your classrooms and you talk to your teachers and you collect the data and you make the decisions.